Have you ever stopped to think why being ignored or rejected hurts so much? This isn't just any kind of pain. It feels like it cuts through your soul, leaving invisible scars. Surprisingly, science reveals that the brain interprets rejection in a way similar to a burn or a deep cut. Here's the controversial part. The pain of rejection might actually be more impactful than physical pain. Because while a wound on the body heals, that "no" you received can echo in your mind for years. But what if you knew there's a way to turn this pain into something positive? It sounds counterintuitive, I know. After all, who in their right mind would want to revisit moments of exclusion, failure, or inadequacy? However, here's the secret. Understanding how rejection works and what it says about you is the key to changing your story. In this video, you'll discover why rejection isn't the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary. So, if you've ever felt the sting of a no, whether in love, work, or friendships, get ready. What comes next isn't just a lesson. It's a revelation that can transform how you see yourself and the world around you. The psychological pain caused by rejection is an almost universal experience, yet few truly understand how real and visceral it can be. When someone faces the weight of being excluded or unaccepted, the brain activates the same areas that process physical pain. As Aristotle wisely said, man is by nature a social animal, and this connection explains why exclusion hurts so deeply. Imagine trying to fit into a new group and feeling that knot in your stomach when ignored. It's like an invisible wound being opened. This reality isn't weakness. It's a powerful reminder of how biologically wired we are for connection. This emotional pain goes far beyond the moment of rejection. It reverberates, creating an echo in our minds that makes us doubt ourselves and our relationships. It's like the shadow of an object lingering long after sunset. Psychologists suggest that our intense response to rejection stems from ancient times when being excluded from a group meant death. Today, although survival doesn't directly depend on acceptance, the brain still acts as though it does. Thus, the feeling of pain becomes a kind of protective mechanism, even if it's uncomfortable. It's fascinating to reflect on how even great minds have felt the sting of rejection. Van Gogh, rejected in life, never saw the value of his art recognized, yet he persisted. This teaches us that the pain of rejection can paradoxically make us more resilient. Perhaps the secret lies in realizing that this feeling can be a demanding but effective teacher. What if, instead of fleeing from it, we face this pain with curiosity? That's when we begin to see how it influences our self-perception, paving the way for the next topic. Rejection, no matter how superficial it seems, is a direct blow to our self-esteem. It acts like a shattered mirror, distorting how we see ourselves. Many start believing the problem lies solely within them, a perception that fuels a cycle of insecurity. As Nietzsche said, when you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you. In this case, the abyss is the doubt about your own worth. Imagine someone not chosen for a project at work. The immediate tendency is to question oneself. Am I not good enough? This self-analysis can quickly spiral into self-sabotage. When we internalize rejection as personal failure, we reinforce the belief that we're unworthy of love, success, or acceptance. It's a silent poison for the psyche. A student who scores poorly on a test, for instance, might start seeing themselves as incapable, even though that grade doesn't define their ability. Rejection then becomes an internal voice whispering lies, and believing them is the mistake we must fight against. But there's a turning point. Recognizing that rejection often says more about others than about ourselves is liberating. It may stem from circumstances, opinions, or timing. Why not start by writing down 3 of your strengths every time you feel rejected? This simple practice helps rebuild self-esteem piece by piece. And as we learn to manage this pain, we begin to understand how it shapes our identity. Rejection, especially during formative phases of life, leaves deep marks on our identity. Experiences of exclusion in childhood or adolescence shape who we become as adults, often building invisible walls that prevent us from fully connecting with others. Freud famously said, "We are made of past experiences," and this rings particularly true in emotional bonds. A teenager constantly ignored by peers may grow up believing they're unworthy of attention, carrying that perception into future relationships. These emotional wounds complicate the formation of healthy connections. Someone repeatedly rejected may adopt a defensive posture, erecting barriers to avoid new pain, but also blocking possibilities for genuine love and friendship. Imagine someone who's been turned down multiple times in romantic relationships. They might avoid relationships altogether, thinking it's safer to stay protected than to try again. The irony is that in fleeing pain, we often distance ourselves from healing, human connection. However, there's a way to transform these scars into learning experiences. Seeing rejection as part of the journey and not the final destination is a crucial step. Psychologist Brené Brown suggests that vulnerability is at the heart of any true bond. Why not start by sharing something small and personal with a trusted friend? These small gestures build trust and help dissolve the walls created by rejection. And in doing so, we begin to see how the psychological impacts of rejection manifest in our mental health, a matter that deserves even more attention. Rejection doesn't just stir our thoughts, it can deeply impact our mental health, leaving scars that are hard to erase. Studies show that being excluded can trigger anxiety, depression, and even disorders like a constant fear of not being accepted. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Often, the symptoms start small, sleepless nights here, lack of appetite there, but can escalate into a debilitating state of isolation and despair. Therapy plays a crucial role in these scenarios. A professional can help reorganize thoughts, showing that rejection isn't a reflection of who we are, but rather of the circumstances around us. Imagine someone who loses a job and begins doubting their abilities. Without support, this can lead to a vicious cycle of procrastination and fear of trying again. In therapy, this person can learn to separate the isolated event from their identity, regaining lost confidence. Ultimately, empathy is one of the most powerful keys to reversing the emotional impacts of rejection. A simple act of understanding can be revolutionary. For someone feeling like they're sinking, joining support groups or even reading inspiring stories can be a turning point. The book Mind Over Mood by Dennis Greenberger is a practical example that helps challenge negative thoughts. And when we begin to look inward with greater clarity, we realize that pain can be a springboard for growth, something resilience teaches us masterfully. Rejection, no matter how painful, carries with it a rare opportunity for self-discovery. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Transforming pain into fuel for personal evolution takes courage. But it's through this process that we discover what we're truly made of. Think of J.K. Rowling, who turned multiple rejections from publishers into a global literary phenomenon. The pain of rejection was just the starting point for something greater. Resilience isn't about ignoring pain, but using it as a tool for growth. Every no we receive can be an opportunity to redirect efforts or learn a valuable lesson. Imagine someone who didn't get into their dream college, but used that experience as motivation to build a brilliant career on a different path. To develop this capacity, practices like journaling can help reflect on learned lessons and uncover hidden strengths. Small steps like these create a foundation of self-confidence. Stories of overcoming rejection are living proof that it can be transformed into success. Steve Jobs, fired from his own company, returned years later to revolutionize technology. Why not take a moment to reflect on a recent rejection and consider what it taught you? By turning pain into learning, we come closer to understanding the social dynamics of acceptance and belonging, a force that shapes our interaction with the world. The need for social acceptance is deeply rooted in our nature. As Eric Fromm stated, the quest for belonging is one of the strongest human drives. Being rejected by a group, whether at school, work, or among friends, doesn't just hurt. It threatens our perception of who we are in the world. That's why social exclusion can be so devastating. Imagine a child never picked for games. That sense of not belonging often echoes into adulthood, affecting self-confidence. The impact of rejection in social contexts goes beyond immediate pain. It can create a cycle where people avoid interactions to prevent the risk of being excluded again. A classic example is a professional who avoids speaking up in meetings for fear of criticism. This self-imposed exclusion is a dangerous trap because it reduces opportunities for growth. Creating small moments of connection, like joining groups with shared interests, can be an effective strategy to break the cycle. Social acceptance isn't just about being liked. It's about feeling that our ideas and contributions have value. And it starts with small steps, like offering support to someone who seems out of place. These acts create bonds and remind us that inclusion is a two-way street. After all, even when rejected, we all seek a place where we can belong. This quest also reflects in professional and creative contexts, where handling rejection is an essential skill. In professional environments, especially in creative fields, rejection is almost a constant. As Thomas Edison said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This perspective is crucial because every no can be a step toward the next yes. Think of a designer whose project is rejected or a writer whose manuscripts are turned down by publishers. These moments, though frustrating, are invitations to refine skills and build resilience. It's not about avoiding failure, but about how we rise after it. Confidence is often the greatest challenge amidst setbacks. It's easy to feel that professional rejection is a definitive judgment on our abilities. However, adopting a practical approach can change the perspective. For example, a salesperson hearing no repeatedly can use those rejections to refine their pitch and test new strategies. Books like Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss offer valuable insights for facing these situations with emotional intelligence and determination. Persisting in creative fields requires learning to separate the work from the creator. A rejection doesn't diminish the value of the effort or the originality of the creator. It's helpful to remember that even great icons like Walt Disney faced countless rejections before achieving success. By developing this skill, we're better prepared to turn negatives into opportunities. And along the way, we mustn't forget the importance of self-care, which brings us to the practice of self-compassion. Rejection often makes us harsh on ourselves, but cultivating self-compassion is the antidote. As Lao Tzu said, caring deeply for oneself is the first step toward caring deeply for others. Practicing self-compassion starts by accepting that making mistakes and facing rejection are universal human experiences. Think of someone who missed out on a job opportunity. Instead of drowning in guilt, they can remind themselves that even the most successful people have faced failures. Replacing self-criticism with self-understanding is liberating. To better handle rejection, adopting practices that reinforce self-care is essential. For instance, guided meditation can help calm the mind and remind us that a single moment doesn't define who we are. Apps like Headspace or Calm are great tools to get started. Additionally, keeping a journal to record achievements, even small ones, is a practical way to reconnect with your own value. This practice helps us see beyond the no's and recognize life's yes. Self-compassion is a skill that, like any other, requires consistent practice. Recognizing your limits and tending to emotional wounds are essential steps in transforming pain into strength. Every small kindness we show ourselves reflects in how we face the world. This internal care prepares us for the next journey, where rejection stops being a barrier and becomes an ally in the path of growth. Now that you understand the profound impact rejection can have on your life, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you let the pain control your actions, or will you use it as fuel to grow? Every moment of rejection is a hidden opportunity waiting to be uncovered. Think of the people who turned their greatest no's into stories of triumph. What if you could be one of them? Rejection doesn't define your worth, you do. So the next time you hear a no, ask yourself, how can I turn this into a new path? Maybe it's time to revisit that forgotten idea, reconnect with someone, or embrace a new challenge. Because true failure isn't being rejected, it's giving up on trying. If this video helped you see rejection in a new light, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Let's continue this journey together, exploring ideas that challenge, inspire, and transform. And remember, life isn't about how many times you're rejected. It's about how you choose to move forward.